Hey guys, so the next video we're doing is carburetor, taking them off and making sure that there's no obstructions at all. Needle and seat and the jets, pilot and main jets, making sure that everything's as it should be, so we're getting fuel so that all carbys are running as they should. It's a little bit tricky with 3 carbys or 2 carbys to know whether one is actually failing, especially in idle, because the other ones sort of cover it. And we need to be sure that everyone has got operational jets, operational needle and seat and float fuel level so that it's functioning. And it's the only way you can tell is really pull them apart. It might be over some people's heads to go this far, pull the carbys apart, but if you can do it, you can save yourself a few dollars maybe, or take it to a boat mechanic and get them to do it. Just make sure your carby's got good fuel, good flow, good clean jets, and everything should be working good then. So I've got the 3 carbys unbolted, and we're going to remove each carby just by taking the joining links off, and then we'll be able to get to the bottom of each carby. Drain the carbys with this main drain plug here on all those. We can make sure that it's getting fuel into the carby while we're priming the bowl. If these are flowing fuel out of here, then it's getting fuel in the needle and seats. If it's not coming through when the bulb's primed, then the needle and the seat may be blocked, which is very common. They haven't been used for a while. Looking inside the carby, you want to make sure the fuel isn't flowing out of the jets, because if it is, that means the float isn't shutting off the needle and seat, and that's when you're overflowing fuel straight into the carburetor and into the engine, and it shouldn't be. It should be shutting off. The float should be shutting off the level. So the needle and seat has to do 2 things. It has to let fuel into the carby, into the bowl, which is the bottom section of the carby, to fill it, but it also needs to shut off once it gets to the right height so that it doesn't overflow out of the main jets, and then you just got some raw fuel just pumping straight into the engine, way too much. That won't run well either. So we were just cranking the motor over, checking some other things, but also checking that there's oil coming out of each of the oil inlets, and there is. Top one, second one, and the third one does as well. So there's oil coming into all 3 cylinders. So we have the 2-stroke oil working. We're going to check the fuel and the carbys so that we know that it's got fuel, and we've done all the other stuff as far as the cylinder, the head, to make sure it's got water in all the water tracks and galleries and inlets. So this screw here was left loose by the mechanic. Its adjustment is for the electronic ignition. It should be tight. Also, this top carby screw is loose. It's another one I've found. It's just not done up tight. Okay, so we're priming the bowl. You can actually hear, it filling the carbys. Draining the bowl. So we've got the first carby off, top carby, and there's the main jet in the middle. And underneath the little rubber grommet, there's the pilot jet. Pilot does the low and idle revs, and the main jet does the high-end revs, takes over, and fuel delivery comes through it. One thing we can check is the flow on the needle and seat. If you blow into the fuel pipe with the float down and in the up position, it should block off the needle and seat. If it doesn't block it off, or you don't get flow when it's down, then the needle and seat isn't letting fuel in or shutting off later. So I'll just blow on it. And it's functioning correctly, shutting off when the float's at the top in the full, and it's letting fuel or air in when the float's down. That's exactly what you want. So there's the main jet out, and I've just checked and it's clear. But also you can check with the light down through the carby. You can see that the main jet access point to the top of the carby is clear as well. We'll check the pilot. So there's the main jet, and you can see straight through it. She's nice and clear, and that's what we need to do for all the carbys. Just check that's clear and the pilot's clear. We'll get to that now. I'm glad I pulled them apart, because it looks like these gaskets on the bowl haven't been replaced when the service was done. Maybe just the needle and seats were replaced, but they're really quite flattened. So I've got a new set. Just going to give the carbys those new gaskets as well, so that it's all as good as it can be. We want to be sure this thing's going to run and last for 10, 15 years, like I said. So yeah, I'll make sure it's all done. Okay, so once you pull the rubber grommet out, the pilot jet comes out of there, and I've just turned him up this way so we can see. The pilot jet's only very fine. It just lets a small amount of fuel through for idle mostly and low revs.
So it's very, very easy for it to block up and clog up. It's the more common one to block up. The main jet's quite large in diameter through the center, and it flows fuel pretty quick. They aren't going to block up near as quick, but the pilots, that causes you idling problems, starting problems and things. And as you can see, they're very, very fine. So sometimes you need to get some piano wire or something and actually clean them out if they're blocked. This one is pretty good, so very happy with that. Going all the way with these. So I've taken the top off to have a look at the other air jets and pilot jets. As you can see, there's got the light on the side again. We've got little air jets, and we've got these two jets as well. We're going to have a look, little tracks and things. You just need to make sure that they've all got flow on them. Even this little one at the front here, need to make sure that it flows as well. It's all important for the idle running especially, that all of these are actually functioning and clear and no blockages whatsoever. I'm pretty picky about this. I want to make sure it's right. After you do all the work to the engine, you want to make sure that all this is operating 100% as well. So probably going a little bit further than what some mechanics might. But gee, when you overhaul the Carby, you want to make sure it is right, don't you? So I've got a bit of tube on these pipes here, just blow in them to make sure that they're clear. And yes, they're clear. Do both of them, make sure there's no blockages anywhere. So this is the emergency starter valve. You only turn it on if it doesn't start when it's cold, and you have a real problem starting when it's cold. So most guys think it's an automatic choke or something, you've got to take the cover off just to get to it, but you don't. You only ever use this and turn this if you desperately need it, but we're going to pull it apart and make sure it's clean inside as well. On the second Carby, the mechanics put some grease around the gasket. Maybe he felt like it wasn't sealing properly, but what's happened is that there's grease filled up this air track, completely blocked and filled it. I need to get that out and make sure that one's blowing and clear, because that's just not what you want. You don't want grease filling these jets. That's when they gum up, and little air tracks and things don't work like they're supposed to in these, especially for idle. The bottom Carby had the gasket crushed out of position when it was refitted. So it's a good thing I'm checking them again. And so it's all complete, back together. All the jets, all the air tracks are all clean, made sure they're correct. New gaskets, so yeah, those old ones were quite hard and flattened and out of shape. So I have put new ones on, and I'm just happy that they've got new ones on, as well as new needle and seats from the mechanic and so on. All the screws are done up tight this time, so we should have everything right to go. Carbys are all bolted back on. She's all finished. I hope this has helped you guys somewhat. See you again soon.